Hi everyone, welcome to Doing Dental School. My name is Kajal Khatri. I am a first-year dental student at Marquette University School of Dentistry, and today I wanted to sit down and talk to you all about my iPad. So this was a huge purchase that I made right before starting dental school, and something that I definitely knew I wanted to do right when I got into dental school. And I know a lot of students are getting accepted right now, so I thought this would probably be something that's on your mind and something to start thinking about as you kind of move forward into this whole process. So if you want to stick around and if you find this video helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below. Okay, so in this video, I wanted to go over 3 specific things. So first of all, the actual iPad that I got and why I got it. And then the second thing of how I actually take notes on my iPad, and then lastly, just some random features and some different apps that I found that have been really helpful in dental school. So in terms of what iPad I got specifically, I chose the 12.9-inch iPad Pro, and it is big, as you can see. I mean, this is my laptop, my 13-inch laptop, and like, it's big. It is probably the size of my laptop, and I absolutely love it. I have never regretted getting this big of an iPad, and that was one of my main worries is it going to be too big? And absolutely not. Personally, I have really big handwriting, and so that's something that really drew me to the bigger iPad. I also love being able to zoom in on things. Also, having some of my lectures virtual, being able to do a split screen and having my lecture on one side and my notes on the other side is really nice, because I know some of my friends who have the normal or the smaller sized iPads, they feel really crammed when they're taking notes when they do that. So I absolutely love this iPad. Also, another reason that I chose this was because of some of the faster processing speeds, especially because I do make videos and do a lot of like graphic imaging on my iPad. It has been super helpful for that as well. So I have honestly never regretted getting this big of an iPad, and I would highly recommend it. I think for me, it really came down to, okay, that iPad Pro, that 12.9-inch is $200 more than the 11-inch. And so I was debating, I was like, is that $200 worth it? And for me, considering the amount of money that I'm spending on my education for dental school, that $200 seemed like a good investment to put in to make sure that I can get good grades and kind of come out a really good dentist and the best dentist that I can be. So I think this is really one of the biggest tools that I've invested in to ensure that my education is worth it for me. And going along with which iPad to choose and when you're buying your actual iPad, a tip that I wanted to kind of give you guys is look into student and educational pricing at Apple. So that's how and when I bought my iPad, is during educational pricing, which is usually during July, August, and September. And it varies every year, but for my year in 2021, when I bought my iPad, it was $100 off of your purchase of an iPad or a laptop. And then you also got free AirPods with your purchase. So that was something that was really big, and definitely something that you should take into consideration of when you're buying your iPad. So in terms of how I actually use my iPad to take notes, this is something that took some time to figure out for me, but this is the best way that I have found that works for me, and it's definitely different for everybody. But the app that I use is Notability. So there are 2 main apps that normally people use, GoodNotes and Notability. I know some people also use OneNote. You kind of just have to figure out what works best for you. I chose Notability specifically, but it really was a toss-up between GoodNotes and Notability for me. I just ended up choosing Notability. So in terms of how I actually take my notes, I actually screen record off of my iPad here. So give me 1 second. Alrighty, so we are screen recording, and as you can see, my iPad is really bare. I don't have much on there. Like, these are all of the apps and that's it. So specifically, I use Notability. Something that is a new feature on Notability that's really, really amazing right now is being able to organize your notes into different folders here. So as you can see, I just finished up my D1 fall semester, so I can open that up and you can see all of my notes from that semester, and I can close it up because I am done now. And what I'll usually do is go into D2L, which is our learning database for the dental school. And what I'll do is I'll download a PowerPoint or whatever lecture presentation that the professor is using that day and put it into Notability. So I didn't actually want to show like a different professor's material because I just don't want to invade people's privacy like that. So I'm going to show you guys this with a specific presentation that I made. I made this my senior year of college for my microbiology class. So what I'll do is I'll go into D2L or Google Docs or wherever this presentation is. I'm going to hit those three dots, hit share and export, send a copy, and send it to Notability. So we're going to hit Notability, and then the nice thing here is that I can create a new note. I can name it right here. I can put it in a specific folder. I'm just going to keep it in Perio for now, but eventually it'll just get deleted. And then I'm going to import it, and I can go back to Notability, and it's right here in my Perio folder. So this is super nice. And what I then do while I'm sitting in class is I have my Apple Pencil and I can be like, oh, you know, like this is really important. This is on my exam. Or, hey, like, you know, this word is really important. Let's highlight it. So that has been super helpful and definitely a way that I sit in class and take notes. And then from here, what I'll do is, depending on how I plan to study for that class, I will either use my notes or my iPad, my laptop, or I'll use paper and pencil, Quizlet, whatever it may be. And so on my iPad specifically, I used it a lot for neurocranial anatomy last semester. So you can see here, I would go through and write out all of the important concepts that I needed to know or needed to memorize, and I would write them all out into my iPad. So this was super helpful, especially if I wanted to like memorize the circle of Willis. I could take my eraser and erase this and be like, okay, like what was that? Oh yeah, it was the anterior cerebral artery. So that is one way that I've used my iPad a lot to study and to memorize. Okay, and then lastly, I wanted to go through just a few features of the iPad and some apps that I have on my iPad that I found really helpful. So I know I mentioned this kind of before, but I don't have much on my iPad. I don't put Netflix on my iPad. YouTube is not on my iPad. I don't even keep iMessages on my iPad because I want my iPad to be specifically for education. And this is a personal choice that I've made, not to connect anything because I don't want notifications when I'm in lecture. I have my phone for that, and that is a completely separate thing. Sometimes I'll have my phone out on my desk if I need it, but I want to be 100% focused while I'm in lecture. So I don't keep anything except for educational stuff on my iPad. Aside from that, in terms of actual apps and different features that I have, so I'm going to go ahead and screen record again. And so here is my iPad, and in terms of different features, so something that I use a lot is split screen. So the nice thing is that especially in Notability, you can do split screen right in Notability. You can have like your notes on one side and your lecture presentation on the other. You just hit those three dots and you hit view on left or right, and now I have both of these presentations on Notability. And then you can kind of like swipe either way to get rid of them. You can also do split screen within or through different apps. So what you're gonna do to do that is actually like half swipe up. So don't swipe up all the way, but like really gently swipe up a little bit. And then you're gonna hold an app and drag it to the side. And that is gonna be your split screen. And you can take the little bar in the middle and you can move it to either side. I know that they've made this easier now and you can hit these three dots at the top, but I know not all iPads have that yet. But that's something nice that I can do as well, where I can choose an app to have a split screen. In terms of specific apps that I found really helpful, so again, don't have too many apps on here that I've downloaded, but I do have Notability, I have Outlook to check my email, Pulse is actually D2L, so that's where I get all of my lecture material. Quizlet is super helpful. I use Quizlet specifically for certain classes, and I found it really helpful, especially when someone in our class makes a Quizlet and shares it, or vice versa. That's super helpful. Complete Anatomy is something that I used just a little bit, not too much, but it was super nice. I just downloaded the free version, but I know there's a paid version. You can basically just like click anything on the skeleton and it'll give you a ton of information about each bone. And I'm pretty sure you can go into like muscles and stuff like that. So, that's obviously in the paid version, but this is something that I used a little bit, but not too much, but I could see how it could be really helpful. I also have Google Docs, Google Drive, Google Slides, and then BoneBox. That's the main app that I would highly recommend any dental student to download. So there's a normal and a pro. They're both free, so just download the pro. But, how do I go back? Here we go. So, as you can see the whole mouth here, and you can choose like, I don't want to see the bones. So I just want to see the tooth and the roots. So you can do that. The nice thing also here on the side is you can be like, okay, I want to learn dental numbering, and the numbering system. So you can click each type of numbering system and you'll be able to see that. You can also see like, I want to just study the incisors or the canines. You can do that. And the nice thing also here for dental anatomy specifically is like, okay, if I want to click this for molar, I'm going to be able to see so in detail all of this anatomy of this tooth. So that's super helpful, especially when you're doing your wax ups or when you have quizzes or exams on specific teeth. This app is super, super helpful. And then I also have Canva. As I said, I do a lot of like digital imaging for my Instagram on my iPad, a calculator, Google Calendars, and Google Sheets. So really like bare bones here, don't have much on my iPad, but the stuff that I do have, I use all the time. And I'd highly recommend just going through and finding different apps that work for you. And if you have any that you could recommend to me, definitely leave them below. That is really all I have for my iPad. It's super simple. I use it literally all the time, and I'm so glad that I've made this investment in my education. Definitely let me know if you have any tips for me on using my iPad and what iPad you're planning to get for dental school. And if you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below. I will see you next time. Bye.